Okay, folks, I'm going to take a minute out of the action right now just to mention we are on Facebook. Punch in RCTV on Facebook and check us out. Send in your pictures, send in your videos, right? Or if you want to just say hi to me or the cameraman or the producers or anybody on the crew. Facebook, folks, check it out. Carl,
hi.
Good to see you. Carl,
long time no see, Nick.
Long time no see, definitely.
Yes.
Carl, American Airlines. Looks like this is the Electra too.
The Electra is still around today, and I believe Canada has a lot of them. It had a reasonably short lifespan as an airliner because the pure jets were being introduced, the 707 and other, yeah.
Now, looking at the wing structure here, it's very reminiscent of a fighter plane. And that's what I really noticed when I first look at it.
Yes, and typical of Lockheed, they had some really rather innovative introductions of technology, and this at the time was tremendously powerful airplane in power to weight. Pilots loved it.
Now, these are turboprop,
Yep.
so there's a little difference.
Yep.
And you're going to see in a second, instead of having the exhaust either come up from the bottom or actually come up from the front, it actually comes out right in the back. So you did keep it true to form as well, building this.
The early turboprops were designed that way. Today, many of the turboprops have a side exhaust.
Yes. Now, with the RC model itself here, how is the flying ability on this plane?
Well, it's at least as stable as the Pilot, which isn't very stable. So actually at cruise, it's a easy airplane to fly. At landing, because of the smallness of the wing, the narrowness, the thickness of the wing, it is kind of a handful. It has a tendency to come down like a rock.
This width in the wing, does it help a little bit with stability?
Well, what really helps with stability, Nick, is there are Fowler flaps on here which come out 4 inches, and that gives you a lot of additional surface area.
And they're a lot wider on this plane, I noticed, the Fowler flaps,
Yes.
compared to some of the other models I've seen too, and that does help out.
Yeah.
Well, once again, Carl, it's a pleasure. I wish I could go up in the real plane, to be honest with you. Have you had a chance to do that?
Actually, when I was inducted into the service, I was on a champagne flight of an Electra out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it was a wonderful flight. I would love to have said that was that way with the rest of my military career. However,
It never was.
It never was, no. I had to get off the plane, unfortunately. So it is, at least in those days, it was a really nice airplane to fly in.
Well, once again, Carl, thank you very much. Thanks for all the history of the plane and everything, and I look forward to seeing some of your new planes that you got coming out that people haven't seen.
Yeah, well, if my wife lets me, God willing, we'll be back again next year, so thank you.
And now it's time for the Eliminator RC Tip of the Week.
Gear meshes, get them right or strip a gear. Here we have a touring car. It has a 64 pitch gear on it, which is a pretty fine tooth pattern gear. And if you look, you can see the rock back and forth in the spur gear. That means it's too loose. What's happening are the teeth aren't meshing far enough into each other and they're rocking back and forth. What you need to do is lock them farther in so there's not as much rock, but not so much that it drags and it's hard for the motor to turn the gear. This motor is easily adjusted by 2 screws in the back. The best thing to do is to snug the motor screws so you're still able to move it, but it won't move on its own. So once you get it, you can just tighten it up. With a fine tooth gear like this, a 64 pitch, you want just the slightest bit of rock. Just enough so that it's loose enough that it doesn't bind, but it's still tight enough that it won't round the edges of the gear off. So you just push the motor. There it's too tight, so you just back it off just a bit until you get the little bit of wiggle that you want. Now that it's done like that, you can go ahead and tighten it up. Now that it's tightened up, it's always good to double check your gear mesh. It's perfect. If you have a car that has steel gears, it's necessary not to have as much play in it, just because if you do have a little bit of play in it, they start wearing against each other and they will sharpen. It's also important with bigger 8-scale electric cars to try to have as minimal amount of slop as possible, but still maintaining a smooth spur gear rolling. Well, that's your tech tip of the week. I hope you enjoyed it. Keep on watching some RCTV.